I was going to say who I am, but hopefully you all already know. I'm John Burgos. Y'all, welcome to be on The Ordinary Show, tonight's edition. Oh, and I'm so happy about today's call with Masami. If y'all have experienced Masami on the show before, just what fantastic calls these are and what gets engendered in the translation of how she sees and integrates and embodies, and then shares from a very practical perspective how we can shift into our higher states of consciousness, into receiving that intelligence that is all things spiritual, in everything, in every breath that you take, in everything that you witness. And it's beautiful. But the way that Masami brings it in for us and then gives us the tools to allow our body, mind, and spirit to acclimate and to attune to that, for that new level of consciousness, it's extraordinary. My sessions with Masami in the past have been absolutely mind-blowing, as she was repeating to me what a medical doctor was telling me to do in her protocol, and she was doing it intuitively. From feeling, from knowing, from sensing, from deciphering the field. And Masami's like no one I've ever met before in the way that she shows up in the sessions. And so you're going to experience that and so much more on today's call. So I hope that y'all take some you time and really show up for yourself and your body and your mind and your spirit, and relax into just this beautiful flow of conversation that we are about to engage in, which you're an integral part of. So thank you for being here on the call with us. And to tell you a little bit more about Masami, how can I tell you? I mean, I've already told you some of it, but Masami embraces the power of both spirit and science, intuition and physiology, and bridges the unseen and the seen to reveal the interconnections of body, mind, and spirit. As a health intuitive, her work is centered on cultivating the innate healing power and exploring the root causes of functional imbalances, rather than focusing on the diagnosis and labels around medical conditions. And again, today we're going to get into a full embodied conversation and flow, and what that means for your expansion, for your consciousness, for the peace that you're engendering, for the abundance that we're all having the opportunity to step into in ways that we've never experienced before. So again, phenomenal call. Masami is also going to take live calls or live questions. So if you want to ask your personal question, raise your hand and we'll probably get through a lot of Q&A today as well, because Masami can be pretty quick, and I want to dive into that so that you can just fully benefit from the experience tonight. And Masami, it's with that I want to welcome you back to BTO. Thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you, John. So excited. And thank you for having me back. And I'm just delighted. Anytime I see you, I can't stop smiling. So I don't know.
I'm the same way with you. It's this beautiful connection. So as we go in here, Masami, why don't you describe to everybody on the call, because some people are new to you, what it is that you do and how it is that you do it.
Yeah, I was listening to my bio and I thought, yeah, that's right. Like I was thinking about it because I wrote it a while back, and I don't think I need to update that quite yet. So that's a good sign, And I wanted to make sure that the people knew that I call myself the health intuitive. And I purposely coined that word, or, I don't think anybody else uses that kind of a term. I really didn't want to call myself the medical intuitive, because the word medical has this concepts, or maybe for me anyway, vibrationally, has this idea that you're looking for a medical reason or diagnosis, or maybe somehow we can figure this out by going after the symptoms after symptoms. I mean, if we go long enough in searching, you could probably find some kind of a diagnosis for whatever that you have. It could mean that they would just give you an umbrella term that will cover something, right? But I thought, that's not what I'm interested in. I mean, I could work with diagnosis. I have quite the knowledge for that stuff too. But what I'm interested in is the health. And the word health means wholeness, right? Whole self. So to bring the whole self back is what I'm interested in. And I feel like we have been living in so many years, so many decades of separated, fragmented, divided. And it's just, we're kind of picking pieces up right now. And then all of us are trying to come back to the wholeness. So that's what I'm interested in, is the innate abilities for us to heal and to come back to the health. So that's why I call myself the health intuitive. So I just wanted to start there. I'll pause for a moment.
No, that's great. And as we get into the health intuitive, but it's more, the health is part of the engendering of the embodiment of something else that's awakening within us. It's that thing that we look to have relationship with. It's that thing, that the intimacy that we seek, the sense of peace, even the sense of passion and purpose that comes along with it. And so by bringing the health as a vehicle for the balance into wholeness, it's so powerful, because in the spiritual community, the body has been left out for a long time, or has been taken on as a vehicle to take on energies that we couldn't handle. And I truly believe we're at a time that our body is integrated enough through different shifts of energetics that we're all experiencing, that we are able to absorb the intelligence and carry it in ways that we haven't before. And I'd love it if you can talk more about the merging of that, and then how we can start integrating, or some practices perhaps that you use for that embodiment process.
Well, I think, first, why don't we just come back to our bodies for a little bit before we even go any further, and just kind of drop into your body. Like I said, we're so fragmented, we're so divided. 3D to me stands for divisions, or, you are divided and distracted. Even distraction's the big one right now, right? So those are the 3Ds to me. And so it's important that we bring ourselves back in, even for this call too. If you could just come home to yourself 100% right now, just for this next 2 minutes, that you put undivided attention to who you are, into this moment, and to this each breath. Because if we only knew how precious this moment is, and how precious this each breath is, we wouldn't take it so lightly, or we wouldn't just ignore it, or would just say, oh, I'm going to take another breath in the next moment anyway, so I'm going to distract myself. So if you could just come back, okay, not be divided within you. And we often divide the head from the heart from the Japanese word is hara. Hara is the gut. So we divide these 3 centers. So let's see if we could bring all the H's back. So the head, the heart, and the hara. And if it feels comfortable for you, just take a moment, roll your shoulders, and look around the room. Look around the space that you're in. This is with you. This is supporting you. Look down towards your feet, and look towards the heavens, the cosmic energy above. And then if it feels safe for you, go ahead and close your eyes for a moment, bringing back the 100% energy, your attention. You're not divided. And sipping on your breath coming through your nostrils. Nostrils are very important for breathing, because they are filtering what you breathe in, warming up the air for you, cleansing things that are coming through from the outside world. And as you breathe out, noticing the slight warming of the air coming out of your nostrils again. So just only using the nostrils, your nose breathing right now. Just breathe through that. Openings are warming up the air, integrating the outside realm, the outside elements into your body. You're sipping on the breath. The oxygen gets exchanged and into the bloodstream. And then you're breathing out. So continue to focus 100% of your attention to what's amazing about this is that you're one with all things. We're breathing the same atmosphere together, no matter where you're at. It's pretty powerful when you really tune into that. It's not something that you say, yeah, that's great. That's a great thought. It's actually remarkable that we are literally sharing this moment together as one. And you're incorporating the outside into your being. It becomes who you are as you breathe in. And as you release your CO2 out, the atmosphere pulls that from you. And then you get to breathe in the oxygen again. It's all ready for you. We have 5 times more oxygen than you need in the atmosphere. So it's always available for you to take in. If you're feeling stuck, you've been feeling like your flow is not there. Well, it's not that we don't have enough resources outside of us, but it's how you are incorporating that inward to yourself that you may need to look at. And become one with all for 2 more breaths. And this last exhale, see if you could breathe out of your feet into Mother Earth, Mother Gaia. The dome-shaped earth that is supporting the arches of your feet. The dome-shaped atmosphere that is supporting the top of your head that is dome-shaped. And just noticing as you come back to this space where you felt the tightness, where you might have felt pain. Because when we quiet down, we begin to listen to the body better. So you might have noticed some stuckness, notice that. And slowly come back to this space as you open your eyes. I think as we come back to this space, it was very needed for me to come into stillness. But that's what's lacking so much in this world that we live in right now. We're all just looking for more noise and more ways to better ourselves. Because just with COVID and everything, we have so much that you can tap into. There's so many new tools out there. 5 best ways to, make more flow, or 10 more ways that you have to live this way. And we're just bombarded with it. So much noise. And we are being pulled in every direction. Every moment, I feel like so many of my clients I work with and myself sometimes, it's just like, I'm not enough. I don't have enough. I'm not being enough. So you sign up for more, do this, you try to do this, you're going to do that kind of. What we need to do is come home 100%, quiet down, silence, because that's when you can begin to hear the wind language. We have to get used to the wind language, which is very quiet at times, just the breeze. Sometimes they come really loudly, like a typhoon or tornadoes or something, but the wind language is very quiet. So if you're not bringing the silent practices and stillness practice into your daily life, you may experience a lot more things that will be difficult for your body as you transition from 3D to 5D. And one of the ways to move through this transition that we're all in is to quiet down, come home, embody, because this is where the answer is. We didn't come into this world without I mean, without nothing, without anything really. We have the answers in us, but we don't look for it here. We tend to look outside of us, and that causes us more traumas. This is where the Buddhists say, this is where the life is tragedy, life is difficult, the difficulties we create in our own selves. And in Buddhism, we have this concept of 3 arrows. First one is the arrow that literally hits you, and it's painful. It's a painful experience we have, the trauma we experience. But there's a second arrow and the third arrow. Those are not new arrows that are being thrown at you, but it's how we deal with our own traumas. And we sometimes twist our own arrows. And sometimes we stab it even deeper to make ourselves hurt more. There's a lot of re-traumatization that is going on right now. One, because we're not coming into the stillness. I will pause there. I get a little preachy, so I'll stop.
No, that's beautiful. And I love the whole concept of the scarcity that you were talking about, of not being enough. And one of the biggest ones that's coming up that it may elude some of y'all, and perhaps not, but I've been feeling it so deeply. And when you said, it's like, well, of course, I'm in scarcity there as well, where I don't feel like I have enough time for everything that I need to do. And that's a scarcity energy also, that as we transition through things, and if we're being shown more things that are available to us and our calling, how do we get to that calling? And how do we do all those things that are supposedly calling us? But we start contracting. It's like, but I don't have time. I don't have the resource. I don't have this and that. But time is one that can be a slippery one for us to believe that that's not a scarcity mindset as well. So what you're talking about, pausing, and you get into the resets and into a reflow, it's so important right now. How is it that you help your clients get into that? It's like, so when you're working with somebody, Masami, and you're working with big groups also, what is it that you're seeing intuitively that's allowing you to bring people back into the regeneration and the rebalance, and to overturn that scarcity or that imbalance that could be running again in their physical body or in their emotional body?
There are multiple things, but let's start with the maybe down to earth stuff. But I think let's say a client comes to me and says, okay, I have these pains, and these are all scarcity stuff, right? I'm not healthy enough. I don't feel good enough. I used to be able to do this, but now I can't. I mean, fill the blank, right? I don't have enough. I don't have enough. I don't have enough health in order to feel great the way I want to, so there's a lot of rigidity in the mind. But what's helpful to know is the brain science. Neuroscience is very important in this. Neuroplasticity is actually quite important to understand more and more of. And it's, a lot of people are starting to throw that word around. But to really understand it is that we have to understand the negativity bias that most humans are based on, okay? Negativity bias means, I'll give an example of, often, this is almost all the time with all my clients, is that when you first start working with me, I will ask them for series of questions that they can tell me, these are the things I'm having a hard time with, these are the symptoms, these are the diagnosis I've received. So these are all, let's call it challenges, okay? Negativity side, okay? But what happens is, as they get better, I have to remind them every time I say, hey, did you know that when I first worked with you a month ago, you complained about these 5 things, but you have not mentioned 4 of them on this call, okay, a month later. And that means you are actually shifting, you're actually getting better, but you have failed to notice that. So those are the little things that you want to pay attention to. It's like, oh, that's right. And oftentimes the clients will say, oh my gosh, Masami, you're right. I had all these 5 things that were happening to me, and now 4 of them I haven't even thought about for the last 2 weeks, and you brought it up. And I'm like, and I said, so are they better? They would say, yes, they're so much better. I'm sleeping better. I even lost 5 pounds. But generally what we do is we come into a new session, okay, a month later, let's say, and they would say, oh, so they have another 5 more to share. So we never pause enough, okay, to say, what have I accomplished? And I'm one of those people too. I need to stop and say, what have I accomplished? And luckily, my husband will sometimes remind me of that. And I have to remind myself of that sometimes. And I actually did that this week to myself. I was talking to myself in front of the mirror and I said, I was calling on my name. And I said, look how far you've come, Masami. I mean, when I moved to this country, I was 16 years old. I was living with foster care homes. I didn't speak a word of English. The only statement I practiced getting to here was, my name is Masami. I don't speak English. That's the only phrase I knew how to say. And so I was looking at myself, tears coming down, going, holy crap, you've done so much. But guess what? I barely go there. I only go to the place like, I haven't done this. I haven't gotten to this point. I haven't reached this point, whatever that may be. So number one, we have to understand that we have this thing called negativity bias in our brain center. Okay. We need that because that's what kept you on this earth. Okay. This is why our grandparents survived. Our ancestors didn't get eaten by a lion or, elephant, or who knows. I don't know. Elephants eat people, but okay.
The prehistoric elephants, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah. You get the point, right? So it's important, but also you have the chance to start rewiring your brain differently. That's extremely important. And you are in charge of rewiring your own brain. And, there's a saying that what fires together wires together, right? So what constantly firing inside your brain is going to eventually wire, and you end up getting very rigid. This is when reset is important. So like what we just did for about 2 minutes, you just do nothing but focus on your inner breath and come back and reset. Because I do believe, and John, I'm sure you've been feeling it, that there's a time warp. Have you started to experience that? Like there's a weird time warp. It's not 24 hours a day anymore. And there's something, I go into those like a really strange zones sometimes.
I've had 5 days in one day. It's weird. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So we are able to do that now. That means you want to keep up with this 3D brain to get into the 5D brain. So that means rewire. So rebooting, resetting, and then taking some time for stillness so that the brain can reset, reboot. But number one, talk to yourself and see how much you have accomplished up to this point. No one on this call could be here if you didn't survive some traumas, okay? Capital T's to little t traumas. We've all been there. All of you are survivors, okay? But I think we are being asked to thrive. But in order to go from surviving to thriving, there's a little bit of pause that you must take to take an inventory of how much you have accomplished, how far you've come, because you all have done all that to be here today, right now. So that's how you can get away from this mode of I'm not enough. And we all go through it, trust me. But it's practice. Yeah.
There's something really important that you talk about. Well, there's a couple of things. I want to talk about the Forgotten Chakra, and we'll get into that in a little bit. It's going to be huge. But I also want to get into the conversation of bodily karma. Yes.
Yes, my favorite topic. So bodily karma, it was actually something that my husband and I were talking about it. And I kept saying to him, I said, it's the stuff that gets stuck in your body and it gets recirculated over and over. And he's like, you mean bodily karma? So we both decided that's what we were going to call it. Yes. So the bodily karma is something that you recirculate inside you over and over and over. And it literally creates kind of that stuck feeling that you have about, so-called karma. But this is more of a bodily level. So for instance, okay, so here's the thing. So a lot of people work on energy clearing. They do a lot of emotional work. Maybe you've done, you know, karma clearing, not the karma, well, karma too, ancestral clearing, or maybe chakra balancing, you know, you're going to unplug yourself, and you've done all kinds of things. But every time you do those work, you're actually stirring up. This is what I see in my intuitive mind. You're actually stirring up some dust. Okay. It's like you're trying to clean the closet, but it gets messy first, right? But the mess just gets kind of piled on. Somebody has to actually collect that dust and put it in the dustpan and actually discard it. Okay. That is what we're lacking in a lot of spiritual and emotional work. I do believe that. Okay. Yeah. And so they're not doing the brain clearing. Okay. So there's this lymphatic system in the brain that's called glymphatic system, and it's connected to your lymphatic system actually. And it comes in the time of theta, and you're basically in the deep sleep. Okay. When you're one with God, and when you're one with all things, and when you're not moving at all, and you're breathing super quietly and slowly, that's when the brain actually kicks in to start cleaning your brain of your old thoughts, old traumas, your old patterns, narratives, things that you seem to like, you just go, you know, I worked on this emotional stuff for 2 years, and here we go again. Okay, well, that gets imprinted in your brain and needs to be cleared out of your brain through your lymphatic system. But once it gets cleared, you need to actually clean that out through the bloodstream and the lymphatic system through your liver. The liver must be operational, and liver has to be working really healthy, and your bile has to collect that, whatever the dust that you stirred up. Okay. It could be your traumas. It could be the anger that you worked on. Maybe you are trying to work on forgiveness. But all that gets stirred up, that must be collected by your lymphatic system and your bile, and has to bind together with things like fiber. And then you need to poop them out. Okay. Or you need to exhale them out. So you got to be working on your breathing. You're going to be working on your lymphatic system. You have to be working on your constipation or your diarrhea or irritable bowel syndrome. Okay. Or brain fog for that matter. And then also, more and more, I'm seeing women that need to be sweating a little bit more. And I'm not talking hot flashes sweat. I'm talking about you need to sweat, like exercise, move, take infrared saunas. That's how you can get rid of this bodily karma. Otherwise, I'm working with clients that have done so many beautiful, amazing practices for decades, some of them, and they're coming to see me because they just feel like same shit is coming up again over and over. That's what I call bodily karma. Yeah.
And that's so wise. And that's really part of the embodiment process also. Again, so much spiritual work that we've done, and it's been right. It's like, it's no one's suggesting that you've done anything wrong, but it's really time to start paying attention to this part of the process that you're embracing, that's coming in. And so this intelligence within your body, it's going to start calling you intuitively to calls like this, intuitively to certain detoxes, like I want to do a liver detox, or I'm going to do a celery juice cleanse, or whatever it is. It's like, that's the intuition kicking in. It's the liver wants to do something. My IBS, these things that are coming up, if they're flaring up, it's also an indication that Lyme's disease, other things like that, it's an indication that the body's trying to clear that which has been purged, whether you've known it or not. As these ascensionary energies are coming in, our body's adjusting as well. So whether you're new to this type of genre of conversation and you're drawn to it, or you've been doing it for the last 30 or 50 years, we've all been going through this process where our body is assimilating and needs the support to properly cleanse, so that we can really embrace the periphery of the consciousness that we're expanding into. So I love that you're having this conversation, Masami, and your awareness of how it ties in and brings it into wholeness, and how you make it practical, and the nutritional elements that you bring in through your education of working with with different type of supplements and being a naturopath. And it's just, it's so needed. And I'm so happy that we're having this conversation. And it's funny because I felt the show going from a place where y'all have heard me say this and I laugh at it, but it's so accurate. You know, we rock it on the left of woo-woo. We're like, if there's woo-woo and then there's us. We're not afraid to have these conversations and going into, because there's truth in it. There's elegance in it. There's so much healing and intelligence in it. And for me, I'm actually reversing it back in and back down into a grounded perspective. For me, it's now where personal development and spirituality need the bridge, because they've been too separate for too long. And so we're bridging the in between. And Masami, you're doing that in these beautiful ways. How does this affect people, or how do these diseases like autoimmune diseases, Lyme disease and other things that it's, again, a big container for something that couldn't be explained before. How do these uncurable type of diseases, how can we start clearing them in a way that perhaps isn't being demonstrated through the pharmaceuticals or through the traditional medicines?
Well, so I'm going to go back a little bit and then come back around to that question because it's really important. So one of the things that I started to notice, and then I am actually going to take a radical step today. And John, I've never talked about my opinions about celery juice, but I'm going to go down that road today. But so I work with a lot of people that have been doing purging, right? They have clearing things. They've been doing cleanses. They're on perpetual cleanse. And this was about a couple of years ago. I call it my inner wisdom. You know, it's inner wisdom talks to me a lot, and I talk to it a lot, and I'm talking to myself out loud a lot. But my inner wisdom said, listen, Masami, it's like, you've got to speak up about this. And I kind of knew that. But inner wisdom said that this idea about cleanses and purging and releasing, and it's too masculine in its approach. And you've got
violence. It's a violence.
Yes. This is where I mean by, I think we're still stuck in kind of the 3D approach for the 5D journey that we're all trying to be in or take. I mean, whether you're trying or not, you're in it. Okay. So, but the approach is too masculine. It's too stripping of it. It's too much of this, like a release, let go. And this is when I started to really struggle. And it was around the same time that I was very interested in writing. And I started to write about my memoir. And it was my way of healing myself. And I spent 3 years actually writing my memoir. And this was after my father died. And it was right after earthquakes. And my hometown was struck by 2 earthquakes, and we lost our home and everything in it. And Dad died. And there's just so many losses. And then during that time, what I needed was less of cleansing, less of removing, less of, working on everything that was a stripping, more of nurturing, giving myself something back, whether it's warm cup of soup, or just blanket myself, or loving conversations that I needed to have with myself. That's what I wanted. And the feminine energy was starting to come inside me, said, this is what you're here to teach. You're not just going to strip these people's bodies, but you must teach them how to nourish their body back. And I think that is the area that I want to talk about. And like I said, I have never publicly spoken about the celery juice. And I've been hesitant to do this because there's a lot of people that love celery juice, including myself. Okay. However, I do celery juice only a couple of times a year for set time in the year. Okay. What I want you to understand, all of you, is that celery is a very yin vegetable, yin and yang, yin. So it's very cooling to our system. It's very, it's a dark like, and dark as in cooling, cold energy. Okay. And so many of us women and men are struggling with the autoimmune condition called thyroid, right? Hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, or even, Graves' disease is the opposite, but most people have the hypothyroid issues. When we cool our bodies from the core of who we are with something like celery juice or so much like fruit-based juicing, we're actually going against the seasonality of our bodies. So if you were to ask me, when do you do the celery juice? I do it when the celery is in season. Okay. And celery is in season in summer because it's high in water and high in potassium, and it's cooling to your body. So it's so intelligent. I'm sure you can see that that's what you need in the summer. When it's hot, you're sweating and you need the potassium because you're losing it as your electrolyte. And then you need to create the cooling effect in your system. That's when I would do that. But I started working with so many clients that have been doing that, mostly cleanse mindset. And I started to notice what they needed was healing, energetic nourishment. And that is the feminine approach that you must bring back. And I'm not saying that you abandon the masculinity practice, but you also need to bring the feminine energy to this. And so this is what I feel about celery juice. And I'm sure, please don't email me and say to me that, celery juice is awesome. And
You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Good. It's good. But, I just want you to know there's a time and space and seasonality, and you've got to get to know yourself better that way.
There's an intelligence to it, definitely, to work with, not around. So that's wonderful. I love that.
I didn't answer you autoimmune, sorry, but the autoimmune is, I think part of it is lack of awareness to the seasonality and the connection to this earthly matter. You're separating yourself because autoimmune means you're attacking yourself, right? You have lost the abilities to distinguish what is helpful within you and what isn't. So discernment is getting a little bit gray there because you're starting to attack the self. But if you look at the world right now that we live in, we're attacking one another. Okay. I live in Colorado. We just had that shootings in Boulder. Okay. And last week there were Asian communities that were targeted. So this has been it's been a pretty rough time for everyone. And I have to be honest, it's been difficult for me too, So when you tune into that, we are attacking ourselves. Do you see that we're attacking each other? Because we don't see that we're all one. And that's what the autoimmune condition is essentially. And it's also in Ayurveda, we say that the Ayurveda is the unprocessed or undigested anger. So that's something that we want to go into. And the anger has a lot to do with your liver and the bile. And that's a huge Achilles heel for many of us. So I'll pause there for a moment. Yeah.
No, I think that's wonderful. And again, the work that you do to get more clear about Masami's work, it's the understanding of these components, the intelligence coming through of the seasonality and the protocol. And it's also knowing how to connect it to the emotional body, the emotional state, what's maturing, what's being held back in limitations, through trauma, through even past life things that are coming up. It all comes into the now anyway. And Masami's ability to piece these puzzles together as a holistic approach. And one that's really in integrity with the flow of what's coming up for you specifically is it's just amazing. So again, this knowledge is so vital as far as I'm concerned right now. And it's also because there's a big expansion, a portal that's opening for us for the vitality that we get to have as we age moving forward now. There's actually a capacity to be in much more vitality than we were 10, 15, 20 years ago with the proper nutrition, the right spiritual, personal development work, and the right mindset and the practices. where the scarcity, we're talking about stepping into abundance, but what we're also doing is about removing scarcity consciousness. And in that, we release those things that keep us in density 3D and move forward into another octave of flow that eliminates the need to be held down, weighted down by those dense energies. So there's a transition that we're all in. And no matter what's coming up in your personal development, what you're feeling in your body, there's an immense opportunity to increase our vitality and longevity. We don't want longevity just for the sake of longevity. We want vitality. And with that vitality, we want to have longevity because we know what we're stepping into. We know the joy, we know the creativity, we know the experiences. Even if it's intuitively without knowing what exactly it looks like, we see what is unfolding in front of us and how we're contributing to that, not only for ourselves, but for others as well. So it's amazing what's coming through. Oh, Masami, there's so much I want to talk to you about, and I want to take live Q&A as well. I'm going to ask you the other question at the end of the call. And so I want to get into some live calls. I want to start taking live Q&A. So y'all start raising your hands. I'm going to start posting y'all as participants here. And while we're doing that, also while I'm doing that on my end, Masami, everybody, Masami's special offer is through the roof amazing of what's being offered here, and the live sessions, the recorded practices. It's and for the price points, Masami has played with me to create something extraordinary for the price point that we asked for, and it's very generous. And for me, it is so in alignment with the expansion that we are stepping into, and to do it with grace, awareness, intelligence that you get to carry forward for the rest of your life. It's phenomenal to me. The special offer link is in the chat box. Click on the chat box at the bottom of your screen. You'll find the link there, or go to beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Masami24. And Masami is MASAMI and the number 24. And it'll take you to that same page. And Masami, if you would guide us through what everybody's going to receive when they participate in this. And I'm going to start promoting some of y'all to panelists. If you're not on video, if you can't ask your question that way, you can ask your question in the chat box as well, by the way. So know that we'll take some questions from there as well. And Masami, please guide us through what everybody's going to receive.
Okay, well, thank you, John. This is a topic that, John, I wanted to go into this a little bit, but maybe a little later. But because I know it's a topic that I've talked to John about. It's about this boundary practice that, if we're going to go from 3D to 5D, we need an upgrade. And, John and I've been saying, like, we need an upgrade with this. So I thought, I'm going to create this. But don't you think we need an upgrade? I know you and I have talked about this.
Oh, 100%. There's a different conversation in the way that we hold it, and the vernacular and the practices, that it's much more in integrity and alignment with the sovereignty and an acknowledgement of the work that we've done to get to where we are now.
Yeah. So, I'm calling it the upgrade your boundary practice and muscle testing for your holographic anatomy, because I want you to bring all of you into deciding how to move forward. And muscle testing really also needs an upgrade also. And yes. I'm a huge fan of muscle testing that you do with your entire body. I want all of you involved in it. And so what I ran into with a lot of my clients is that they're doing muscle testing with their head, their mind. Their brain says yes, okay, because they have so much knowledge about the certain things, certain supplement, or maybe certain foods or certain things they want to get into a business. And they will say to me, well, this business that I'm wanting to get into this is great for X, Y, and Z. And they will tell me everything that is, like, they're trying to convince themselves. In the meantime, their body is screaming, saying no. So I want to incorporate that. I don't want to do divided muscle testing anymore. So that's that. And I decided to do 2 live calls, and they are they're both on Saturdays, but there's going to be live calls and they're recorded. And, anybody that has taken my courses, I give you so much that you can take with you. But the first item is, what are boundaries and why do we need an upgrade? And I will go into it, why that is, and how we change the way we've been practicing boundary practices from 3D to 5D. And then item 2 is taking inventory of your boundaries. So this is when you're going to have a self-guided exercises and downloadable PDF, and you can go through a series of questions to figure out, okay, well, what are the areas that I need to be deeply looking at? Because I think we need to understand what are some of the limitations that you've been putting on yourself. So that's the item 2. And item 3 is the boundary practice for your holographic anatomy. And this is the live 90-minute call with me, and it'll be recorded if you cannot be on. But we'll practice these boundary practices. I'm going to take it much further than some of you have maybe taken my boundary the muscle testing before, but I'm going to take it much, much further. And I'll take some Q&A, and then we go into item 4. That's the anti-nutrients and leaky gut. So we're going to go into boundary practice to heal your gut lining. If you've been having irritable bowel syndrome, or you've been having, going back and forth between diarrhea and constipation, or you may have some SIBO issues, or you have gas and bloating, I will take you through some things, nutritional protocols, but also ways that you want to prepare your food better, and how to incorporate more of a day-to-day food choices and things that will help you heal your inner gut boundaries. Because if you're not healed inside, doing external boundary work may not completely serve, because you become leaky, you become permeable, and things can enter into your body. And I was talking to a client yesterday, and I've been teaching her how to work with her fungus and yeast issues. And she started to understand that her yeast overgrowth and fungal overgrowth were actually talking to her in the middle of the night, and that was causing her to have nightmares. And so now we're starting to pull that back. We're trying to bring balance back into her bacteria in her gut, and she's doing so much better. So you want to understand the boundaries, not only from energetic field, but energetic vibrational fields of your inner microbial world that it's inside you, because you're more microbes than human cells. And item 5, I think this is this one is the healing nutrients, supplements, and the microbiome. So we're going to go, you're going to receive downloadable PDF and more resources with this. And then item 6 is when I do the live boundary Q&A call. And this will be an hour, but you know me, I'm going to probably go a little bit longer, but it'll be recorded, and you can ask me questions about the whole program and what you need more help with. So that's what I'm offering.
That's an amazing offer, y'all. And this is all for $107, and it's invaluable for your health, for your well-being, for the expansion. It's just, and Masami, it's again, just the way Masami shares. And if you put it into action, and I want to use it as a disclosure, all this information is great. It's wonderful. And we provide a lot of information here on BTO and bring amazing speakers and practitioners. And what Masami's offering is, again, this whole body type of awareness that is able to come in, and you have to use it, put it into practice, like really devote to yourself. And again, we talked about scarcity a bit earlier. And again, the one that seems to elude us that we forget, it's a scarcity thing, that we don't have enough time. And I would ask you to consider where you're choosing to invest that energy in, and the dividends that it will pay when you truly authentically show up for yourself and devote and say, yes, I have to make myself a priority. And when you do that, things will shift. They'll begin shifting before you start receiving the information. When you devote, when you commit in that way. And I'm telling you, this is a special energy in Masami to say yes and devote yourself to, because she will hold you in an energy that's very powerful, and kind of hold you a little accountable as well, which I love. Because it's time that we hold ourselves accountable for what we seek. And to have someone hold that boundary so strong for us, because they can see that we're capable, not because they're judging you, but because they can see your potential and your capacity to grow, to embrace, and to thrive. Those are the type of teachers that I want to work with. So again, I highly recommend this. And I recommend it if you're choosing to really devote to yourself and to say yes.
Thanks for saying that, John, because I think that needs to be repeated over and over. I think it needs to be on a sticky note. But you are responsible. You can change your health. You can change the vibration, but you have to do it. You have to do the practice. And this is why I often say it's, in the yoga world, we say it's a yoga practice. We never say yoga perfection, your perfect pose. There's no such thing. It's a practice, practice, practice. And that's it. That is what is required of us. I don't sell anything that says, hey, you're going to be spontaneously healed from this. I don't ever do that. Would you be able to spontaneously shift your consciousness and your vibration? Absolutely. But you know what? To keep that going, you have to come back to this body and practice, practice, practice. It's a daily thing for me. It's not that I hit that point of health and I go, hey, you know what? I'm done. No, it doesn't work like that. So hopefully you can get that passion that I have around that. And one last thing I just wanted to say is that in Japan, we call it we're in the era of the wind. This is the wind, time of the wind. Wind is when you are, in order to fly up and enjoy, like, let's say you're riding a glider, you have to actually stand up on that ridge and allow the wind to blow at you so that you can catch the wind and fly up, right? So the lightness is required of you, the lightness of being. And this is when, if you're still holding on to the density, meaning old concepts, old patterns, or even diagnosis, to be honest with you, if you're holding on to that diagnosis and saying, I am diabetic, I am da-da-da, fill the blank, that's the density that you'll be still holding on. You will not be able to go up to that area of that wind, catching the wind and actually literally flying up into the air of the wind if you are holding on to the density. And the density not only comes from that kind of mindset, but comes from sluggish bioflow, sludgy bile, constipation, pathogenic stuff in your gut, and microbial growth that is actually causing you to have all kinds of problems, rashes, skin issues, brain fog. Those are all very much the density that you want to work on this year, because this year is the prep year, everyone. And, come December, you are going to feel a major shift. One other shift that you're all going to feel is June, mid-June. Prepare for that. Mid-June, you are going to feel that sense of, holy cow, here comes the wind. And you're going to do a test run with it, test fly with it. And December is going to be a big flying time. So till then, you can continue to work on removing the density from the body, mind, and spirit level. Yeah. So I just wanted to say that.
Take the extra weight off that spaceship and get ready to really go places. Absolutely. Oh, I love this. Well, $107. Again, this is a very generous offer from Masami. It's, again, I can't highly recommend it enough. I actually want to do one-on-one training with you. I want to do an immersion with you. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we need to talk about it.
That's going to be, wow.
But before that, I just want to meet you and give you a big hug. That's going
to happen. We're making that happen. So anyway, y'all, it's $107 is a 2-payment option. Dive into it. When's the live call, Masami?
Oh, April something. Sorry, hold on. I just closed that link, but I can pick it up here. The last one is on April 24th. Okay. And then the first one, hold on a sec, everyone.
And they're all recorded. So if you can't show up and everything's recorded, you'll get it.
Yeah. And people that have taken my courses will, I'm sure, speak up for me that I give a lot. I give a lot. So the other one is on April 17th, and those are both Saturdays.
Excellent. Yeah. All right. So y'all have the link. It's in the chat box. It's at the top of the chat box, the middle, and at the bottom. or go to beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Masami24. Masami, let's get into some Q&A.
Yes.
Right. Sweet. All right. Anna, you've been standing out for me. Anna McGuire, welcome. If you'll unmute yourself, please.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, it's great. Thank you. Great to have you on the show.
Hi, John. Hi, Masami.
Hi, Anna.
How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm like really loving your hair.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Anna, what's your question for Masami?
Yeah, my question was actually about the wind. I've always been really drawn to the wind and really feel alive when it's around me. So I'm wondering if there's like a daily practice that you could do when the wind's not around to kind of harness that energy.
Oh, wind is always around, girl.
No, I know, but like if you're inside or, you know.
Oh, but the wind is basically in Japanese that the breath, the word breath means iki. Okay, breath is iki. But there's many ways to describe the breath in Japanese. But one of them, the ki, is the prana, right? So the wind and the breath and the prana, the word ki, also means wind basically in Japanese. Okay. So you can harness the wind anytime when you tune into your breath. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You're breathing like millions of times a year. Okay. But you're breathing anywhere from 25,000 to 30,000 of breaths every day. That's how you harness the breath. So what I would recommend with you is a breathing exercise. Okay. And where are you calling in from?
Australia, Melbourne.
Is it a morning hours there?
It's midday.
Okay, midday. So this is good. So for those of you that are in the evenings, please do not do this exercise, okay? But you can do this, okay? And it's recorded, so you can do it. For those of you that are in the evening, you can do it tomorrow, okay? In yoga, we call it the Bastrika. Bastrika means bellows breath, okay? So all of us can do this together, okay? So I'm going to sit back a little bit. And you can choose to bring arms up and down, okay? But if you have bursitis or any kind of shoulder pain, you've had injuries, don't do it, okay? You can even go out like this is okay too. But adding the arm movements is going to create the wind, okay? But you're going to go up and then you're going to separate the hands like this. And then as you bring them down, you're going to make a fist, okay? So that's the arm movements. And what you're going to do is your ribs are going to expand as you inhale, and as you exhale out the nostrils, in and out through the nostrils, your ribs going to come in. So that's why it's called the bellows, because you do something like this, okay? So just watch me first, okay? So I got my hands open like this. That's kind of fast, okay? So you can start just this. Okay, every single morning, okay?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'm going to take that back. I don't do this every single morning because I have many different breathing practices I do. But when I'm feeling stuck and I could use the harnessing the wind so that I can change the course of my life, this is when I do this wind practice, okay? So a couple weeks ago, I was feeling pretty stuck. I felt kind of rigidity set in inside me, but also critical mind was starting to talk to me. You're not good enough. You're not doing enough. Right. Fill the blank. That's when I said to myself, I'm going outside, and I look towards the sun. If the sun is way up, don't look at it directly because it could harm your eyes. Okay. And I did this. Okay. And I start slow, and then I take a break, and I do another 10 of those or so, and I take a break. And I did about 5 sets of them, okay? And at the end, I released all my air out of my lungs, and I opened my palms, and I stood, faced the sun, closed my eyes, and held that breath at the exhale as long as I could. And then in that time, I brought my intention back into myself, asked for the universe to flow through me, and I took a wonderful breath through my nostrils. Boom, shifted. Okay. Yeah. So that's what I want you to do. Okay?
I love it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Thanks for asking.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, let's go. Actually, I want to take a question that came in. I'll go to the live caller here in a second as well. Debbie writes, I'm so excited about this call. I want to ask Masami about a recent diagnosis of severe osteoporosis as a 50-year-old female that is a healthy yogi, whole plant eater, blah, 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 and do not want to be on any bone drugs that are so pushed by doctors. So much of this is the fear that they want to instill in you, but I don't want to take that on. Would you have any wisdom on this for me and maybe other women that are going through this type of thing?
Yeah, the bone issues is a big one. And I've been teaching a course lately, and in one of the modules that I just taught was about bones, actually, just recently. And the bones are where we hold our crystallized stories. Okay. So there's a difference between fascia, and then I don't want to get into too much here, with the too many languages that you may not quite understand, but the fascia is kind of the skin, that it's fibrous things, that it's inside you. It wraps your muscles, your bones, the tendons, connective tissues. That's called fascia. Okay. So the fascia will collect your memories. Okay. Fascia is it's like a net. Spider web that collects all the story, not the stories, but the memories. Okay. And what happens is that gets collected and starts to crystallize. And the crystallization of your memories become your bones. Okay. So that the bones, you need to look at what are the stories that you're telling yourself, number one. What are the stories that you constantly tell yourself? And you say to yourself, see, I tell myself this story, and here are the memories that are coming, or and then you just end up saying, it's like buying a red car and then you see the red car everywhere, right? It's that kind of same thing. You reinforce that memory so that you can reinforce your story. So that's number one. And, I'm just going to be really radical, and I'm sorry if this will offend certain people, but when you're having bone density issues, you have to look at how you're digesting your calcium. Okay. How you're digesting your calcium means how's your stomach acid? Do you have enough hydrochloric acid in your stomach so that the pH of your stomach can go into anywhere from 1.5 to 3.0 in pH? That's very acidic. You want to have a very good acidity in your stomach so you can break down the vegetables that you eat and break that down into a usable ionized form of calcium. If you're not doing that, you're not going to send that good calcium into the bones. And what ends up happening is the bones will start to hollow out. Bones are going to start to become really weak. And you are starting to have these issues at 50 years old. Okay, that's pretty young to be having. So number one, you want to look at the stomach acid so that the calcium can shuttle into the bones, not into soft tissues, and become more your memories. And when that happens, what happens is you start to get arthritis. That's when you start to get bone growth. You start to get bursitis. You start to get plaque on your teeth. You start to get kidney stones, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of calcification issues out there. So number one, you need to look at stomach acid. And number two, and I'm just muscle testing myself to make sure if I should even share this. And I get a maybe. I want you to really look at how rigid you have become with your food choices. Okay. And if your food choices have become rigid, then you are going to have issues with your bones, because bones are what shows up as crumbling or rigidity or stiffness or hardness. Okay. So you want to look at how rigid have you become with your diet choices. So that's what I have to say to you. Namaste to you.
Wonderful. Great insights on all of that and intelligence around it. Thank you, Masami. And thank you for writing in. All right, let's go to our next caller, Nikari, if that's how I say your name correctly. Welcome. If you'll unmute yourself, please.
Yeah. It's
Hi.
Nikori, but that's all right.
Nikori?
Nikori. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This conversation has been great. You've touched on all kinds of health issues I have. But one thing we haven't talked about is looking at viruses. And I say viruses because as I work through microbial issues and autoimmune issues and Lyme disease and, check. And it's been years and I've been working with naturopaths. One of the hardest things I come up against is like thinking I can do it. And I've discovered it's not always me when I get caught in that down cycle. It's actually the infections. And this is super woo-woo. But through my own meditations and my own things like this, I've discovered there are emotional conversations with all these different infections, and I don't always have control over it deciding for me that this isn't going to work. and I don't want to completely give up control. Like there is certainly, ultimately, there's a reason that this thing has its presence in my body. But if you have any tools, tips,
what's
tricks,
your question? Yeah, what's your direct question?
Yeah, if you have any tools, tips, tricks on dealing with viruses or things that kind of pull our emotions in a direction that aren't empowering.
Great question.
Yeah. I kind of picked up a lot of things.
Yeah.
But here, I'm very careful about the word but, and I just used it too. And I feel like you are very good at collecting lots of information, okay? You search a lot of things. Because when you first started talking to me, you're like, you've touched upon a lot. There's a lot of things that I'm going through, but you still haven't touched upon this. Okay. So do you see? It's just like, it's always collecting more stuff, So almost like your health shows that too. It's like as if you're sending out to the universe. It's like, I want to learn more about this stuff. So you become the laboratory of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You're like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm volunteering for the next virus. I'm going to volunteer for the next issues because, I still haven't learned about that. It's like, so you need to stop volunteering yourself for that. That's
okay.
Do you see that? Do you see where I'm going with it? And I
totally see. I do it without realizing it. Like I'm super intuitive, and I have a very hard time not pulling stuff in.
Yeah. So you need to just say, you know what, enough already, universe. Don't use me more to, work this out, because I only have this time right now, and I don't have the time for all that. And another thing I just wanted to say is, I think John has something to say here too. I want him to chime in, but it's like I wanted you to almost like go surrender. Like, you kept saying, I want to be in control with this. I want to be in charge of this. It's like, what if you are more microbial than the human genes, right? We all know this, right? We have more microbes and viruses and pathogenic things and all kinds of other things. That's what makes up who you are. So you may just need to go, I surrender. What do these guys want? And stop gripping onto something that is not even you. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
I hope you're getting it where I'm going, but I
get it. It's super uncomfortable, but I love what you're saying.
I love the surrender topic, and I know John's good about the surrender topic. I want him to chime in on that.
I am good about the surrender topic, and I want to take us back to the beginning of the call when Masami's saying, really look back at where you've been and where you are now, and what you have accomplished instead of what you're missing. You have accomplished instead of what you're missing. And this intelligence, how you can not only use it for you, but really to have compassion for others in the process as well. Because there's the looking for the gaps in this, which is where do you look for the gaps in others? And in that is, where is it that you're waiting for the other shoe to fall? Is a component. It's like, but something's missing, but there's a gap, but there's something else. And there's like part of that's running in the background. It's not the primary, but there's that emotional, again, stopping, recognizing, acknowledging just how beautiful you've been on your journey and where you are now, and this intelligence that you've acquired within yourself, and how just absolutely amazing that is. I mean, really, if you can just write a love letter to yourself for the journey that you've been on up until now and allow that to settle in, you'll find that the virus may settle down with you. It's not looking for the acknowledgement. It's not looking, here's another gap, and let me show you where this other hole is, or watch how we're gonna show up and that shoe's gonna drop.
Yeah.
I love that you're saying this. This is the hardest thing that is ever, like, that's just
So
really
hold on.
uncomfortable. So you're touching on something.
So hold on a sec. Who's saying that it's the hardest thing? Who says that? Whose voice is that? Where's that coming from? Distinguish, like I talked about. Is it coming from your head? Would the heart say that? Would your gut say that? Who's saying this? Where in your body are you saying it?
It's like I can feel it all in here.
Okay,
Like,
when it's choking, that's not your heart. It's
Mm-mm.
not coming from your heart center. Right? Can you feel that? That's not coming from your heart center. If you put your hands on your heart center, heart wouldn't speak to you like that.
No.
And the last question for you, okay? I really want you to do what John said. You need to write a love letter, and that's a homework for everyone, really. The one question is, tell me 3 things that are just beautiful about you. Share with all of us. 3 things.
Okay.
Yes.
3 things.
3 things is really how much growth how far I've come in the last 10 years, as the compassion I've gained for myself in being ill.
Beautiful.
Something you've mentioned on the compassion growing I have for my children, and the room I have for their emotions, which I didn't have growing up, and how, that's really important to me.
Awesome. Last one. You've already checked off 2.
Yeah. And
yes.
my sense of humor.
Yes, there you go, girl.
And I would say your laugh and your smile also. So thank you for that.
There you go. Now do you feel that your throat doesn't feel choky? Now you just laughed out loud. You released it.
Okay.
Can you feel that? Can you feel that?
There's a lot right in here. So there's still other stuff, and I don't think I felt it released.
I'm gonna chime in again. Your usage of but. You constantly negate what you just said. You constantly say, yes, but there's a lot going on here. That's the negativity bias I'm talking about. Do you see that? You need to start rewiring your brain differently. Catch yourself the moment you start going down that road of, oh, yes, these are great, but I still have X, Y, and Z, not good. That but should be your time to quiet down and say, I'm going to rewire my brain differently. I'm not going to go down that road. I'm going to stay with what I've accomplished, how beautiful this is. I just laughed out loud. I released just a little bit of that. That's where you stop. That doesn't mean all these other things are going to go away. They will still be waiting for you. Okay. But take the time to rewire your brain. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I'm going to give you something for everybody on the call to rewire your brain also. Simple exercise and simple statement. Your mantra for I'd say for the next 20 days. I deserve for life to be easy. In the mirror every day, 5 minutes. I deserve for life to be easy.
Got it.
And then even though other people say it's hard for them, it doesn't mean it has to be hard for you. Stop taking on other people's crap.
Yeah.
Taking other people's crap. Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you for hosting.
So wonderful. Whew. Oh, this is so good. See, Masami is not going to cut you any slack. She's going to love you with a lot of fierceness. And it's amazing. It's amazing to receive it. All right, let's go to another live caller, and we'll get into one of the questions that come in as well. Lissalette. Hope I pronounced that correct. Welcome.
Uh-oh.
Let's get you to unmute. And y'all practice finding your microphone button so that when I call on you, you're ready.
Unmute.
I've
Hi,
never said that before, so thank you, Lizalette.
it's Lisa Letta, or Lisa is fine. Hi, how are you?
Lisa,
Yes, Lisa.
what is your question for Masami?
Well, it's more a confirmation of everything that she's been saying. I've been on a personal health journey for the last 40 some years. And I just want to thank you for confirming to go back to the basics. There's a lot of information out there of this health and that health issue or that, and I find that if you just go back to the basics of what you know and what you've learned and what works, that works a lot better. 2 weeks ago, I had a total hip replacement because of a birth issue. So that I was kind of forced into Western medicine, the whole.
Do you have a question for Masami? I want to be efficient.
Yeah, no, I really don't have a question per se. I just wanted to confirm everything that she's been saying.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, I mean, unless there's something that I should, more be doing, but
there's something coming in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one thing is that, Lisa, I'm thank you for sharing that. And what I always tell my clients is that I'm not interested in decorating the house, but I'm interested in digging the foundation. Okay?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, there's too much fluff out there. That's basically we're all selling all kinds of window coverings and new rugs, new paintings.
Right.
That's not what I'm interested in. What I'm interested in is, are you digesting? Are you releasing the poisons from your body? And are you pooping? So I'm glad. But one thing I need you to start doing this year, okay, is I need you to get off the train that's called you said personal health journey for 40 some years. Okay. Get off that train. All right. You've been on that train. Like it's like you're stuck on the same Disneyland roller coaster. Let's go to another ride. Okay. You don't need to be on the personal health journey anymore. Okay. You can get on the personal healing journey to come back to wholeness. Okay. And let's do something else. Let's have a personal fun journey. Okay. And with your new hips, you get to go do something. Right. So start looking into that. All right.
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Lisa,
thank you.
You're welcome.
Lisa, I want to invite you into something.
Sure.
I hope I don't offend you using Masami's words. Don't know. Be the one that doesn't know. Because I have a feeling you know a lot, but I'm inviting you to be the one that doesn't know.
Okay.
So to be in the not knowing, like to be open to new information, to be open to maybe something gifting you in a way that you don't expect.
Awesome. Perfect. Yeah. I do know a lot, but I always feel like there's always something more to know and to share.
Yeah.
So
no, don't share it. It's for you to not know.
Okay. All right.
It's for you to not know, right? It's for you. It's for you.
Yeah. Drop into the I don't know. Drop into that. Just to even all of us, just take a moment right now as you exhale. Just drop into I don't know. I don't know. Okay. Do I know the resources to fix this X, Y, and Z symptoms of mine? Just say, I don't know. I'm going to drop into the I don't know. Okay. That's when the divine gets to speak to you. But when you're, our human brain says, oh, I know, I read about this. No, I can research this. You missed it. You missed that quiet whisper. So just drop into the I don't know every day.
The wind's going to take you. Talking about the wind. Right, Anna?
I love the wind. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks, guys.
Lisa, thank you
Appreciate it.
so much. Yeah, I appreciate you so much. All right, let's
Thank
go.
you.
Of course. Thank you for calling in. All right, so we have a question that came in from Mary Barb. Excuse me, Mary. Thank you for all these super important topics. Masami, I've reached such a depleted state. I'm pretty sure it's adrenals. Now resulting not in not just terrible fatigue, but anxiety and depression. So even all of this info is so overwhelming. heard you mention adrenals recently and wondered if you could see and recommend something for me.
I was going to kind of create a joke and say, I don't know. But yeah, I think she answered, Mary, right? Mary answered your own question. You know what you need is to unplug. You're searching for things. The best way to heal your awesome adrenal glands are just a little walnut size above your kidneys, and they're doing so much for you. They produce your hormones. They're, keeping your blood sugar balanced. They're working with your hypothalamus and pituitary of your brain. And it's a part of this huge system. What the adrenals need whenever I work with people who are adrenally fatigued is for them to, I say, put your adrenals to bed. That's what I would say to you, Mary. Put the adrenals to bed and lie down and take naps, relax. Please don't look for more, okay? That's the number one cure to adrenal fatigue. And I'm just going to throw in just one simple thing you can do. And many of you have heard me, and if you've been following me, is that a little pinch of sea salt in your water. Adrenals love that. Because then adrenals, your body gets to go back to the ocean, because we come from the ocean, and adrenals love that little sea salt in the water. And the water should never taste salty, everyone. It should taste like a mineral water. It's really delicious to your system. But that's where I would start, and then put your adrenals to rest and stop looking and looking. And the fact is, almost everyone is adrenally fatigued. We live in a society of adrenally fatigued world. So we can all use some sense of unplugging, stop answering all your emails, stop plugging into all kinds of things, unplug. Okay. That's what I have for you.
Yeah. And I have compassion for you, Mary. I went through severe adrenal burnout, which led to depression, which led to very low production of dopamine, which took me into severe depression and exhaustion. And as I was in it, I laughed at it and cried with it and slept with it and laughed with it some more, and even that it had an intelligence for me that was coming, but I didn't know quite how to grasp. And it's difficult when your heart's pounding from the adrenals and you think that it's anxiety. And it's your physiology speaking. It shows up as anxiety. You think it's your environment. And of course it is, but it's your body speaking to you and trying to communicate with you. For me, my adrenal and fatigue and dopamine imbalance really took me into a level of compassion that I had never experienced before. And the capacity that I had to hold in that and to embrace that intelligence was profound for me. And I had to surrender into that instead of trying to fight it. And in the surrendering, the solution for it came. Masami helped me with some of it. My own guidance helped me with a lot of it also, as I tuned down and tuned in. And then it led me to those places that really allowed me to recover very quickly for a man, because men supposedly have a harder time recovering from adrenal fatigue than women. I don't know how accurate that is, but I've heard that in several places. But I didn't hold on to that. So again, for any of y'all or all of y'all who are in this body imbalance right now, in whatever way, the compassion, just have compassion for your body and thank it. It's like, I'm here, I'm listening. So much compassion, and cry for your body if you need to. Cry for yourself if you need to. And gift yourself that surrender.
Yeah, it's, if you came to, like, your best friend came to you, Mary, and said, I am so fatigued. I am so exhausted. I am so anxious. What would you do for that friend? You'd probably reach out and give her a big hug and say, come here, sweetheart. Why don't you just sit down on the sofa and I'll make you a cup of tea. And then you can even lie down and I'll bring you a blanket. That's what you would do for that friend. And that's what you want to do for your adrenal glands.
Hey, y'all, the special offer, again, I cannot recommend it enough with Masami. Again, it's just whole body, just, we know we're amplifying and igniting and lighting up in different ways in our bodies. The beautiful intelligence in our body is a very necessary component. And no matter if you're trying to get to enlightenment, to embodiment, to any aspects, to wisdom, to ascension, to 5D, we're not getting there without the body, and it is vital to everything. We cannot do this. We're not leaving any piece behind, including our shadow pieces. And the body's assimilating that intelligence and showing us things that we've been ignoring, suppressing, burying in the sand, and say, now's the time. Now's the time. And not only is now the time, I'm also going to take you on these wings to show you what else is possible with this beautiful body that I am. So we're expanding in so many ways, and what we're capable of is it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And we're just touching the tip of the iceberg. So again, the special offer, the way Masami teaches and goes into it, read the special offer, go into it. It's $107. It's a 2-payment option. I highly, highly recommend it. Again, the link's in the chat box. Masami, as we end tonight's call, we didn't get into the unspoken chakra. Can we take a few minutes? I promised that we were going to talk about that. And y'all, we're going to have this replay going on all week long. And what Masami's sharing here is, again, it's the tip of the iceberg of what's possible. So as you go into deeper sessions with Masami, as you go into the course, as you go into the recordings, there'll be deeper level conversations of solutions, practices, supplements, different things that are there to really assist you through this full journey that we're on.
Well, so I call it the Forgotten Chakra. Yes. And yeah, the Forgotten Chakra is the third chakra. Yeah. We spend a lot of time talking about grounding ourselves and finding our connection to this earth. So there's a lot of talk about the first chakra, and there's a lot of talk about the second chakra with your deep desires. And, knowing what you're here to express through the second chakra is big. And then we try to connect that with the fourth chakra, because you want to have the desire of the lower chakra be connected and filtered through your heart center. And then we express it through the fifth chakra. And then we're all interested in opening the third eye and then connecting with the sixth chakra, and then the seventh and above and above, but we skip over the third chakra. The third chakra is where we ignite the power of digestion of information. You have to ignite the third chakra in order to release the ancestral karma or karmic, energy that you've picked up, but also transgenerational traumas that we have been carrying, and then your stories, and then the information that we get bombarded with, and in your day-to-day activities, and in your day-to-day consumption of foods, and everything else that comes in. That has to get processed by your third chakra. And the third chakra just seems to get skipped over by so many people by saying, oh, that's the self-esteem ones. We don't want to get too strong on there. You don't want to have too much power there. Oh, no. If we are to transition with this body to 5D, we must ignite the third chakra, so that you have the abilities to digest what you're here to digest in this lifetime. And I think we're all being called to do that. That's why I think we have the global scale of digestion issues, because we're not digesting who we are. And so start connecting with your third chakra. Different things you can do. Obviously, you can imagine the color yellow and things, but also 10,000 sun comes together into your third chakra. This is the planetary, this isn't just our own sun, but it's the cosmic level of thousands and millions of suns are out there. They all come together and they shine inside your third chakra. You've got to ignite that power. So start doing some breathing techniques, start using your diaphragm, and start to take care of your digestion using things like betaine hydrochloric acid, which is the supplements that you can use to ignite the digestion. Use things like, if it's okay with your body, apple cider vinegar, little sea salt. It's very helpful. Usage of zinc is also helpful for your third chakra, and things like lemon juice. So pay attention to your third chakra. Please don't skip over that, because if you don't have that, you don't digest your desire and you don't end up really coming in fully as yourself and your self-expression. You need your self-esteem, everyone. You need it. You need it. Yeah. So
Amazing.
that's what I wanted to say. Yeah.
So y'all, again, the special offer, you know where to find it now. The replay is going to be up and can y'all sense a tinge of passion in Masami just a little bit? Just a little bit. Amazing. More people in the world like you. Thank you so much. This has been an amazing call, like always. And I love the way you share and the conviction and how you hold all of us to who we can and are. It's so beautiful. Thank you so much for this call. And thank all of y'all for being on this call, your wisdom and your sharing your experiences and your energy. And let's just all rock it together. Let's just say yes to integrating it all, because we can. I'm telling you, we can have it all. I promise you. I know we can. So I'm going to encourage you to keep striving for that. I love y'all. Have a fantastic evening. I look forward to seeing you on the next call.